Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to my channel. Now today I wanted to discuss a topic that has been on my mind a lot lately, and it is the topic of whether I should be overpaying my mortgage or investing and the balance between the two. Now I know what you're going to say, and a lot of people say the same. If you look online, it's what everybody says, and it's that you should always invest rather than paying off your mortgage, because over the long term, generally speaking, you're going to probably get a better return from the stock market than you are from paying off your mortgage. But for me, as a person who hates being in debt, I find it a really difficult balance to achieve like for instance, on a day like today where stock markets around the world are plummeting. Stocks today are down about 5% just because of jobs data in the US has kind of spooked the markets. And when you've invested a lot of money in the stock market, a day like today really makes you think whether at some point I should take some money out, secure those gains, and maybe pay off some of the mortgage, maybe in like a big chunk. But I know there's that constant battle of, well, is that the best thing to do though? Because long term, if I left it there and, when the stock market goes back up after people, calm down and realise, it's not the end of the world, maybe over time, I will still gain more than I do paying off my mortgage. But at the same time, I'm somebody who finds it really difficult that, like, my mortgage payment is £950 a month. But out of that £950, only around £300 actually comes off the balance of my mortgage. And I'll be honest, I find that really painful every month to see that I'm paying around £650 just to interest, which is, I'm basically paying £650 for nothing, which is a lot of money. I think that's a lot of money to anyone to basically just be spending it on nothing. And I know I don't have a choice in that per se, because ultimately I need my mortgage to be able to afford my house. I'm not in a position where I can just clear that mortgage or anything like that. But what I could do is take some of my investments and pay off chunks of the mortgage over time. And this is what I'm saying. It's something that I mentally kind of struggle with a lot, because like I say, every time I see a mortgage payment go out and I see that every month that I make a mortgage payment, the following month I pay slightly less interest and a little bit more capital towards the mortgage repayment. Like I say, currently it's around £300. But obviously every month that ticks by, it maybe goes to £301, £302, £303. And obviously that extra pound that I'm paying towards the capital reduces the amount of interest I pay. But it is such a slow process in paying off a mortgage, especially when you've got quite a high mortgage. Now, I don't know what you guys will think to this, but my current mortgage is £196,000. That's what's remaining on the balance. And I think it's got about a 28-year term left. So, I'm currently 31. So I'm looking at paying that mortgage off, if I don't make any overpayments, at around 59, which to me, honestly, at this point, it feels kind of, well, almost a lifetime away. It's almost the same amount of time as I've lived now, again, to pay off that mortgage. And it just seems kind of incomprehensible that I'm going to have to keep paying that payment for that longer period. And then there's on top of that, the amount of interest I would have paid over that period of time, because I've chose to keep that mortgage rather than pay it off early. It is honestly an obscene amount of money. I'm sure I worked it out once. I'm sure it's about double or more or less double what I borrowed initially, what I would end up paying back to the bank if I kept that mortgage. But then on the flip side, if I was to take money out of investments, which I do invest in the stock market, mostly in ETFs, so kind of in the FTSE 100, FTSE 250, S&P 500, that type of stuff. I'm not a stock picker. I do not pick individual stocks and kind of go all in on them. It's just not something I'm comfortable doing. I know people that do that and it has worked out quite well for them, but I prefer just to use ETFs and kind of go with the kind of slow but consistent growth over time. That's kind of what my investing strategy is. And I've done that for the best part of around 10 years and it's worked great for me. I have seen, a nice chunk of profit be made in my investment account. And I also get dividends on the stocks that I invest in. I get quarterly dividends. So that is a nice part of investing. And it is nice to see my money grow on that side of things. But then I also think, would it be better to just take some of that money and pay down the mortgage so I save on the interest that I'm paying to the bank? My current interest rate on my mortgage is 3.9, which I know in today's mortgage market, 3.9 is pretty damn good. I got to say, when I got that mortgage a year ago, I thought it was awful, to be quite honest, because I was coming off an old mortgage rate, which was 1.7. And God, if only I'd have known when I secured that 1.7 what was going to happen. I only locked in for 3 years on the 1.7. I could have locked in for 5 or 10 at the time, but who's to know what's going to happen? And God, I only wish I'd have known, because I would have locked in for 10 years and been smooth sailing. But sadly, that wasn't the case. So like I say, I had to remortgage from 1.7 to 3.9. And that is a big jump. And I know a lot of people out there now, maybe even you watching this, are potentially going through this or have gone through this, where you're remortgaging from such a low rate to maybe even double or more on that percentage. And it is painful. And ultimately, you're not getting anything more for your money. You're paying out a lot more, but you're only getting the same for your money. The capital that you're paying off your mortgage stays the same. It's only the interest that goes up. So your payment could be doubling, and yet the capital coming off your mortgage is exactly the same. And it's so painful. Well, it is for me, because like I say, I hate being in debt. I hate owing people money. And I hate the kind of feeling that I have no choice but to keep making those payments, because ultimately I'm locked in. I'm on a 5-year mortgage fix at the moment. I'm 1 year into that. So I've got another 4 years of which I have to make that £950 payment at the 3.9 percentage rate before anything's going to change. Now, obviously, my hope is in 4 years' time, the economy and everything on the world stage will have maybe calmed down, inflation come down, all that sort of stuff, to where interest rates might be slightly lower. So then I could remortgage onto a lower rate, bring my payments down and things like that. But that is in like a dream scenario. If you read a lot online now, a lot of the predictions are rates probably won't come down below 3% is what, a lot of analysts and people who kind of forecast these things are saying. Now, whether that turns out to be true, who knows? But it's definitely something I try to think about. And I think, well, if they're not going to come down much lower than my current interest rate, then potentially this is something I got to get used to for the foreseeable, not just for the 4 years that I've locked in, but potentially 10, 15, 20 years. Because like I say, I got 28 years left on this mortgage. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And this is where that just constant mental battle comes in of, well, do I make overpayments to bring that term down and reduce it from, say, 28 years to 20 years or to 15 years, and keep trying to get it down and down and down so I can get it just paid off, cleared, and be mortgage free. And I worked it out the other day. If I was to kind of chuck everything I have at my mortgage, I could probably be mortgage free. I think it was in around 12 or 13 years time. So I could almost halve the time at the term of my current mortgage of 28 years. I could almost halve it. to say, well, I think it was 12 or 13, so it'd just be better than just a half, but let's say half, 14 years. I could pretty much have it paid off in half the time. And, I would be, what would I be? I would be about 44 or 45 if I halved that term, which I guess in most people's books would be a pretty amazing age to be mortgage free. But it's still a long way away. And it is just something, it's like a bit of mental turmoil that I have to just kind of come to terms with. That, and I guess everybody does in this modern world where we've all got big mortgages because house prices are just so expensive. We all have to get used to the kind of, I don't know, just the thing that payment isn't going away, and we've got to get used to, we've got to pay that high payment for the foreseeable. But yeah, guys, what would you do and what do you do in terms of, do you make overpayments on your mortgage, or do you choose to just pay the minimum and invest everything else that you've got? For me, I do a bit of both. Up to now, I mostly invest any spare money I have, but I'm starting to change that mindset, and I'm starting to think maybe I should switch a little and still carry on investing, because I do honestly believe that is a great way to grow my money, but also to start chipping away at the mortgage balance, because if nothing else, I think it would just help me sleep better at night, knowing that that mortgage balance is coming down quicker and that the term of 28 years is reducing to a more manageable level, maybe 20 years or 15 years, if my job and everything else stayed the same. But yeah, let me know, guys, what do you guys do? I would be so interested to find out, because to be honest, it would probably just help me mentally come to terms with it and maybe just put me on a more even footing going forward. But if you made it this far, guys, thank you for watching. Yeah, I really appreciate it. The channel's been doing great lately. I'm up to over 600 subscribers. So if you like this content, consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. And guys, I'll catch you in the next one.